Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
A cry for help about crime near these new condos. Tonight, the defenders are getting answers.
A Novi man sitting in a Russian prison makes a shocking phone call. What Paul Whelan says has to happen right now to secure his freedom.
And the feds say she tried to be above the law and got caught. A former Highland Park police officer faces startling federal drug charges. Just wait until you see the evidence.
We're going to begin, though, with Local 4 News at 5 with the weather as rain is moving through on Storm Tracker 4 right at the middle of the afternoon drive. It has not been a total washout. It's looked like it's threatened to rain most of the day, but only parts of Detroit have gotten any.
A little bit scattered in some spots. Let's get over to Ben. What is the deal for this evening, Ben?
Yeah, Karen and Devin, we're just starting that push of our more widespread wet weather, and this is sweet, sweet liquid. We have been looking for this for a while. And with what's to come, with temperatures down the stretch, it's going to be a while before we see another push. Let's look at the south zone, which is pretty much solid rain right now. We've got a couple little isolated downpours there west of Adrian and also in the northern part of Monroe County. But once you get north of 94, that stuff is still pretty scattered, so expect those showers to start thickening up there for parts of Livingston and Oakland County as we get through about the next 3 to 4 hours. We picked up about a quarter-inch plus here in the south zone, but we're going to tack on maybe as much as a half-inch plus to a lot of these totals. And some of those blue areas indicate we could be getting up to 1 inch of total accumulation. That's the outside shot. Temperatures staying steady tonight, not moving. But boy, that heat's coming in the 7-day forecast, and we'll check that for you in a minute, guys.
All right, Ben, we need to get to breaking news now coming to us from Israel. A deal has been reached to replace Benjamin Netanyahu. Opposition leader Yair Lapid and his coalition partner Naftali Bennett are going to split the job as prime minister. Each will serve 2 years in that role. Now, this is a deal, though, that still needs to be approved by the Israeli parliament, but it would end Netanyahu's record 12-year rule as prime minister.
Also breaking right now in Louisville, Kentucky, Hall of Fame horse trainer Bob Baffert has been banned from Churchill Downs for 2 years after Derby winner Medina Spirit failed a second drug test for a banned steroid. The suspension means that no horse trained by Baffert can race at the track, including the Kentucky Derby. No word yet if Medina Spirit will be disqualified and stripped of that Kentucky Derby win. It is a shocking phone call. Novi native Paul Whelan sits tonight in a Russian prison, but he's in the headlines this evening for a call he made to a CNN reporter.
How did he do it? In that call, he begged for help to secure his freedom. We bring in Rod Maloney. Rod, the fact that he was able to make a call from a Russian prison is remarkable in itself.
In many ways, it's astonishing, Devin. He does make phone calls, his brother tells me, but it's a situation where you think that a Russian prison camp in such a desolate place would be the hardest time you can do, and yet he's figured out ways to end around the system. And we talked to his brother David today about how all of this works.
Decisive action is needed immediately. The abduction of an American citizen cannot stand anywhere in the world.
Now, 51-year-old Paul Whelan, convicted of espionage, is serving 16 years in a Mordovian prison camp. Recently, Paul somehow reached a CNN correspondent.
This is not an issue of Russia against me. It's an issue of Russia against the United States. And the United States needs to answer this hostage diplomacy situation and resolve it as quickly as possible.
No coincidence this timing. President Joe Biden's expected to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Vienna in 2 weeks.
So I would ask President Biden to aggressively discuss and resolve this issue with his Russian counterparts.
To Paul's twin brother David, these words aren't new, as Paul regularly calls his parents in Manchester, Michigan. More important to him,
things like his ability to record an interview with a reporter, and I understand that there may be repercussions when that gets published to him in the labor camp, shows that he's still fighting against this injustice.
The Whelan family is unified in calling Paul's trial a sham.
He's still quite angry about it. I think he is frustrated that he has been sitting there for 2.5 years, and that the U.S., the Canadian, the UK, and the Irish governments, all of whom he's a citizen of those nations, they have not been able to do anything about his situation.
And so now, David is deeply concerned that Paul's gotten himself into some serious trouble with some possible solitary confinement. but we'll have to wait and see how all this shakes out. It turns out that phone call was made a couple of days ago and actually get on the air today. Back to you.
I've read too much Alexander Solzhenitsyn maybe over the years. I still can't get over the fact that he made the call, but has David been able to speak to Paul lately on the phone?
Well, David says that he has not, because everybody in the family's taken on differing roles. He does the media relations part. But that Paul has been calling his parents because the rules apparently in Russia in this prison are that you can use the phone to call immediate family members, which means spouse, children, mother and father, and not siblings. And so what he does is he sends his messages through his parents to anything he needs to say to Paul.
Boy, it's been such a long odyssey. We'll continue to follow it. All right, Rod. Other news at this hour, a Highland Park police detective now facing federal drug charges, and U.S. attorneys say they've got the video to make the case.
Now, they believe this is a shot from inside a gas station showing Tiffany Lipkovich giving cash to a drug dealer for her friend while wearing her police uniform. Let's get to Victor Williams live in Highland Park tonight. And Victor, these charges come after an investigation that stretched on for years.
Yes, that's right. We got our hand on this 19-page complaint that was filed back on the 27th, but just unsealed today. And inside are some pretty shocking allegations. Former Highland Park police officer Tiffany Lipkovich is accused of selling drugs on the job in complete uniform. This photo is captured in a Highland Park gas station, allegedly showing the officer being the middle person taking money in a drug transaction. The nearly 20-page complaint states that from June to September of 2018, the former officer worked with an informant with the FBI to make transactions for her drug dealer friend, now named Amber Bellamy. The undercover sting ultimately led to that FBI informant buying fentanyl-laced heroin. Some of the phone calls were even recorded. The transcript from one of those conversations gets interesting when the former police officer allegedly questions what the heroin is laced with. The officer asks, "What's that stuff y'all cutting with?" "Fentanyl," the informant responds. "Fentanyl? He was ordering it from overseas and having it UPS'd right to Amber's front door," said the officer. That's why he gave her $40,000, because he had a package of fentanyl coming from overseas to her front door. End quote. And we've just found out in the last few minutes, actually, that Lipkovich is still employed with the police department. She remains a detective there. In the meantime, she's being charged with conspiring to distribute controlled substances. On top of that, distribution of controlled substances. Now, Mayor Hubert Yap sent out a statement earlier today saying that he does not condone this whatsoever. In Highland Park, Victor Williams, Local 4.
All right, what a case. Thank you, Victor.
Let's look at today's coronavirus numbers. The state reporting 420 new cases over the past 24 hours, along with 33 more deaths.
With the vaccine, there is no shortage of supply. 11 million doses have been sent here to Michigan, with 8.3 million shots going into arms.
Good news with the vaccine front, just getting close now to that 60% mark. 59.1% of Michiganders have received at least one vaccine dose. Now, during the course of this pandemic, we have, of course, often, almost daily, and as a matter of fact, checked in with our Dr. Frank M. George to talk about the trend of cases and hospitalizations across the state.
And generally, we check in with them because, unfortunately, the cases are skyrocketing.
Exactly.
But now it's a different situation. Vaccines are going into arms, cases are on the decline. So we really want to ask, Doc, where do things
Well, you know, the last time I did one of these data dives was back on April 22nd, and things weren't looking good at all. I can definitely say without hesitation, though, things look much better in the latest state data. But the data also shows we are still in a pandemic. Hopefully, with more people getting vaccinated and everyone keeping their eye on the ball, the numbers, though, will keep going in the right direction.
The last time I reported on this, there were 4,211 people in Michigan hospitals for COVID-19. As of May 31st, we're down to 981 patients hospitalized with COVID. That's still above the low of 304 last summer, but it's a huge turnaround from the peak just 6 weeks ago. Back on April 19th, there were 895 people in Michigan ICUs with COVID. As of May 31st, it's dropped to 292 patients. Still high compared to last summer, but definitely going in the right direction. 6 weeks ago, deaths were up 25% from the prior week. Generally, they peaked in most age groups at the start of May, and now deaths have consistently fallen, 32% since last week. Statewide, the percent positivity has gone from this to this. The lighter shades of blue instead of purple indicating a drop across the state. 6 weeks ago, the percent positivity was above 16%. Now it's roughly 1/3 of that, around 5%. While all of that shows tremendous progress, one sure thing to remind us there's still a pandemic is the continued spread of variants across the state. 6 weeks ago, there were only 3 counties shaded in red that had documented cases of 4 variants of concern. Now, variants of concern have been identified throughout all of Lower Michigan, with 11 counties showing 4 variants of concern.
Now, with 11 counties showing 4 variants of concern, that is still something we need to keep in mind, but generally all of the data is extremely reassuring that we are headed in the right direction. Now, of course, we still have a way to go with vaccinating people, and we haven't seen the effect, if any, that Memorial Day get-togethers might have had on the numbers, but at least as far as the last surge goes, things are definitely looking up.
And that's obviously some great news. Things are improving, Doc. But in comparison, how is Michigan doing to the rest of the U.S.?
Well, you know, Karen, during the last surge, we were actually leading the country, #1 in cases. Now we have actually fallen to 7th in the number of cases and 12th in case rates. And of course, that is definitely a list you do not want to be at the top of.
Oh, we agree with that. All right. Thank you very much for your perspective. We appreciate it, Doc.
More to come. A Brighton high school student under investigation for a photo showing him wearing blackface.
New tonight, what the district is saying about it, as community groups say this is not an isolated issue.
Also, a massive eyesore on Detroit's east side coming down. Wait till you see what's going up in its place. Sean.
Tonight, a woman who moved near downtown to these new condos was trying to get away from crime on the east side, but she says crime here is out of control tonight. She's begging the police department for help.